Hi everybody, my name is Deborah Hutchison and I work at West Hall High School in Oakwood, Georgia. I am currently the marketing and TAP teacher at West Hall, and I'm here to talk to you today about smart ways to use your advisory board to help grow your program, to get some insight on different ways that community members can help you with your curriculum. So I don't know if you're like me, but about 7 years ago when I came to Hall County, I really did not know or even understand what an advisory board was. I was new to Hall County. I attended the meetings that I was supposed to. And what I found was that bringing people in that are already working in the industry keep me abreast on what's going on so that I can relay that to my students in my classroom. So a couple things that you're going to see through this presentation is that there will be a notes section that you will have access to a little bit later. So if you notice right here in this area, it says to look for notes, but for the purpose of this presentation, you won't see those just yet. So what we're going to be talking about is our advisory board. And one of the things that we as CTAE teachers find beneficial is to recruit members from specific industries. If you teach automotives, you'll want to find somebody who actually works on vehicles. If you teach audio video, you might want to contact Access North Georgia or maybe possibly WSB TV, somebody who is working in the industry that can help you. Depending on which pathway you're teaching, you probably already know one or two people, so that will certainly benefit you to get started. But you want to look for a well-balanced roster of community members that can give you feedback as you talk to employers and get their perspective on what they're looking for from your students. So the rule of thumb here is what you need to keep in mind is that you need to have at over 50% of your advisory board as industry members, according to the pathway that you teach. So I teach marketing. I'll want 51% or more people that work in digital marketing or some form of business that they can actually talk to my students about marketing perspectives and marketing careers. So should you have post-secondary institutions involved? Absolutely. You are going to have students that go directly into the workforce, and you're going to have students that go to college first to get their degree. So here in North Georgia, the University of North Georgia offers both marketing and teaching in their programs. So I would want to see if I could get into touch with somebody from that industry or from that institution to come and talk to me, so that way I can prepare my students to go move on to post-secondary education. So where do I find my advisors? Let's move to the next screen. And so I have a couple of different ways that I have learned to kind of reach out. Again, when I first came to North Georgia, I was not familiar with advisory boards. I was not familiar with how to get in touch. So what I found very useful was to go to my local Chamber of Commerce. And so I'm going to see if I can look that up right here. So for the directory here, there are so many that I could actually get in touch with for marketing. I have advertising to choose from. I have, oh goodness, just about anything. Repairs and service, all these different industries here, they sell. They have to market themselves. So as you see, there's a list of 12 different pages that I can look through, bakery, coffee shop. So I teach entrepreneurship as well. I might want to reach out to some of these bakery coffee shops in the local area. Shows you a map on where they're located, gives you a list of the different bakeries that I might want to get in touch with so that these people might be able to give me some insight on the different ways that they run their business, and then I can relay that to my entrepreneurs. Another good way to get in touch with some of your members is to go to your Chamber of Commerce calendar. And with COVID going on right now, there are so many Zoom conferences that you can attend. So let me see if I can pull up this calendar. So here's the Hall County calendar that you can go to and just kind of do a search to see what might be coming up in the future. Small business webinar, perfect opportunity for me to join in, talk to some people in the area, get to know them, see if they would be interested in volunteering in my classroom. So those are just really good ways to get started on how to find your members. And I also added another article here. You will have access to that a little bit later, but it basically tells you the different people that you want to bring into your advisory board. You want to talk to parents. You want to talk to former students. Who do you know actually went into that industry? I know 3 or 4 different students that literally went into marketing, and I still keep in touch with them through social media. So, of course, they're really good people to go ahead and reach out to if they're working in the industry, give you feedback on what they learned from you a couple years ago and how they're doing in the field. You can, like I said, talk to universities and institutions, and then find other ways to get in touch with industry leaders, or even your work-based learning coordinator can help you, because they are the go-to, they are the ones that really talk to people in the community. Here's a checklist of what you'll be looking for with your advisory committee. This is credited to Roger Ivy, who is a program manager, program delivery team, CTAE with the Department of Education. And it's just a basic checklist on what it is that you're hoping to achieve. I'm going to give you the opportunity to look through this, and then you can decide on how you want to approach community members to build your advisory board. What do you hope to achieve with your advisory members? What you want to do is you want to communicate with your advisory board that you are trying to get their help, not just input, but you want to get them involved. It's a working advisory board. That means that they are the people that they are go-tos. Anytime that you have a question about maybe one of your units that you're teaching, they are experts in the field. So you constantly want to be thinking about them on how to make your program grow, how to make it better in a classroom environment, so that it can be applied as these students go into the workforce. Make sure that your advisors understand how their participation helps to grow and support your program. And then ultimately what we are trying to do here is we are trying to grow and prepare our students to be career ready. So you want to look at this checklist here and just kind of ask yourself, what do you wish that your program had? Your advisors can help you with that. They can give you that insight. For example, if you had an advisor who's actively working in your field, then they should have some common incentives or even some obstacles that the industry is facing. We've had a lot of challenges in 2020, so a lot of the businesses are feeling an economic crunch a little bit. So what kind of obstacles are they facing right now? That's the things that we want to prepare our students for. So just find ways that you can include your members and ask them to provide a specific project, possibly something that you can do along with. For instance, I teach entrepreneurship, and what better way to have my students help with a business in the community, but then to analyze their industry, look at the business, look at the competition, and build a marketing plan for them. That would be a wonderful idea. The kids would really like to get involved with that. So anything that you can do to get your advisory members to help with projects and anything like that. Engagement practices. So sometimes in the past, I've run into community members only staying on with my advisory board for 1 year and then moving on. And I understand that. They get busy, they have things to do, but how do you really engage your advisory members? There are 2 different ways that you can look at this. You can look at internal resources, and what I mean by that is that what's going on inside of your classroom. This is a short list of the different things that you can ask your advisory members to come help you with. And let me go ahead and pull up this activity sheet. This is a really good list of the different things that you can have your advisory members help you with. They're categorized. I'll give you an opportunity to look at this and decide again which way would be most beneficial to bring your advisory members into a working advisory board environment. You want to constantly keep them involved because they're so useful, and sometimes we don't know all the answers that they can provide for us. And I mentioned that we have internal or external resources. So external would be, do you have externships for teachers? A couple years ago, I went into a marketing business here in Gainesville, Georgia, and I spent about 2 weeks with a professional in the marketing industry where I could job shadow him and just learn a lot about what he does for a living that I could take back to my classroom a little bit later. Career fairs and field trips. Let the students attend a career fair and learn about what different companies are out there, global companies, local companies. Take them on a field trip for that. Advisory board members also act as your community relations. A lot of the time, we don't know everybody who is in the industry, but they can certainly get us in touch. And then, of course, you've got analyzing course content. You want to ask them, hey, this is what I'm teaching. Can you just kind of look over what my standards are and tell me if there's anything that you can add to that? And then, of course, they can be an advocate at local board meetings or just advocate for what the purpose of your pathway is. I mentioned a few minutes ago that not everyone knows what the advisory board is all about. So what I have done is I came up with a letter that I send out to my advisory members every year, or at least the people that I'm trying to get in touch with through the Chamber of Commerce. And I just like to send out a really brief email. This looks like it's a little long. You can edit it to whatever it is that you want. But when I first contact people, I put a little bit more information into the context of the email because they need to know what the advisory board is and what we're asking of them. So I tell them who I am. I'm pretty specific on where I'm working and then what the advisory board is all about. I'm telling them here that I actually work with a couple other schools in the area because we feel like the more people that we have on our advisory board, the more beneficial it's going to be in the long run. So this is just a brief introduction to what it is. If you have returning members, it's not necessary to give them all this. They already know what the advisory board is all about, and you can certainly edit it so that they're not looking at all this. As you are growing your advisory board, some of the things that you can start to get the members who are returning to understand on the direction that we're going is that you do want to get them to counsel you on how things are going into your classroom. So this column right here goes through all the different ways that you can get them to actually help you structure your curriculum, structure your program, so that you're teaching the right things in the classroom. Here in this column, we have assistants. They can help us recruit students into our pathway. At West Hall High School, we have a really high population of manufacturing in our area. So marketing is not really one of the top CTAE courses at West Hall. It's a great course for business people to have, but we just don't have that population. So I look towards my advisory board to help me recruit students, things like that. So you'll want to get their assistance on different things. And then to promote to the community and be an advocate for CTAE. Not everybody understands anything more than it's just an elective course. So you want to have your members out there talking to other people who can actually help to grow the program altogether. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of wrap things up here. So these are just a couple things that you will want to keep in mind as you are growing your advisement board. And there are a ton of resources on the internet that you can go look at and find lots of different manuals. Just about every state has a CTE program, so you can go see how they're doing it. If this is your first year building your board, you want to contact those members as early as possible, but never stop your networking. You don't know who you're going to be talking to today that can add to your program. And then, of course, always send out that organized calendar. Find members who you know in the community as leaders who can help you and then get you in contact with the right people. And keeping your members engaged is ultra crucial. You have got to keep them interested in the program so that they can continue to be advocates for us. These are some resources that you can go to. Just click on these links. I do want to give special thanks to Roger Ivy, who has provided a lot of the information inside of this presentation. And I hope that you have a lot that you can take back to your school. Thanks so much. I appreciate your time.